Get that World Cup feeling with DStv Football Buzz. Subscribe to DStv Africa on YouTube.
Another episode of DStv Football Buzz. I'm here with Carol from Kenya, Larry from Zimbabwe, and Matimba from Zambia. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of DStv Football Buzz, where we talk about everything 2022 FIFA World Cup. Let's get straight into it. This week's topic: which African player is going to shine at the World Cup? Larry, can you get us going?
I'm going to go with one player because he's been out for a while and he's got something to prove. That's Alex Onana, because he's just come back from a long ban. He's going to outshine in terms of keepers. That is the Ivory Coast guy. That is Mendy, who's conceded 9 goals in 6. Now, if you could take it into perspective, last season he conceded 16 in he had 16 clean sheets in 31, and he had 14 in 34 in 21-22. So my money is on Alex Onana. I know he's only played Champions League games. Andanovic is starting in the league, but I look forward to watching what Alex Onana is going to do at this particular World Cup.
Carol, would you agree?
I would have thought it was a no-brainer that it's Sadio Mane, because he's probably the only African player who plays for a top team in Europe and is actually in form right now. Most of the other players who are going for the World Cup are not actually. Koulibaly not getting that much play at Chelsea, some other players not getting that much play. Sadio Mane has stepped into that Bayern Munich side as if he's in the old Liverpool side. He's just literally gelled with every player. And I know that Jurgen Klopp is crying that he's gone, but I'm expecting him to just step into his World Cup shoes and shine for Africa.
It's not a case, though, maybe, does he have the supply that he has at a team like Bayern Munich and Liverpool, where he's got the supply coming from midfield? Does he have that with Senegal?
He's the African Player of the Year for a reason, because he performed at the Africa Cup of Nations with the team and the supply you're talking about right now. He will, however, need Mendy to be in form as well, because you almost can't shine if your team is not winning. So you need your whole team to be in form so that you can show what you're made of. But in terms of, and Bayern, he's not even supplying, he's scoring, but he's supposed to be the supplier. So I think all round, yes, he's going to shine. That's
in case of another number 10 like a Maradona taking a team by the scruff of the neck and taking him to a quarterfinal or semi-final, hopefully. Matimba, who do you think is going to shine?
I think for me, I'll go for the Tunisian, Hamza Matlouti. If you followed the progress of Zamalek on their way to winning the Egyptian title, it's one that has been very instrumental. And if you bring it back to the Carthage Eagles, the combination play with Ali Malou, the player from Al Ali, I think they are the ones that steered the Tunisian side to be able to qualify to the World Cup. I think I'm looking forward. Yes, the Sadio Manes may be there. We already know about them. Andre Onana, the goalkeeper from Cameroon. But I think for this World Cup, it's very possible. And looking at the current form that these two players, and in particular Hamza Matlouti of Zamalek, the way he's come out, I think he's one that I feel will be able to step up during the World Cup.
Talking about Cameroon goalkeeper, will he be able to stop the likes of Brazil in attack?
Larry, well, not necessarily, but I think in terms of the way these Tunisian team has qualified. Remember, in the early stages of the qualification, and that's why I'm talking about the Tunisian team, is that they were once in the same group with Zambia, and I was able to follow the performances that were put up by these two players in terms of the combination play and the like. So I reckon that may just be a situation of a player that very few pay very little attention to, that may just rise to the occasion and be able to be, one of the top players to talk about in terms of the African perspective.
But Simba, he made you forget you were Zambian for a while there. You're supporting the other team.
My question around the guys who are in the Egyptian league. The Egyptian league just ended a couple of weeks ago. So therefore, going into the World Cup, they won't have as much game time as some of the guys from who are playing in Europe right now, who will have gotten some form. So I had thought of a couple of guys from Egypt, for example, the Zamalek striker. I just forgotten his name right now. I'm just putting his name up. Zizo, for example, from Zamalek.
Yeah.
He's done very well at the national team level, but he's going to be off season. And by the time the World Cup comes, they would have probably been spending a lot more time in camp with the national team than actually playing football. So that's my worry, even for the guys who play in the Egyptian league.
Well, that's very true. But I think
in terms of talking about guys that are playing in Europe versus guys that are playing in like Egypt, are the guys playing in Europe, how are they going to cope with the weather change? They're coming from a winter to the hot weather of Qatar. Can the likes
it's always been an
Mane,
issue.
obviously he's used to playing in Senegal, but I mean, coming from Germany where it's cold to Qatar, can he adjust?
I think we've seen it in the recent past, even when it comes to the Cup of Nations as a reference point. Players that play their football in Europe always struggle when it comes to, to acclimatizing to those conditions. And that's how I strongly feel players that, for instance, the African players that are playing in Africa or those that are playing in and around the Qatar region will have it easy. So yes, that might just be an issue that they may struggle in terms of settling down. And that's why for me, players from, for instance, Tunisia, who largely play in the domestic league, those in the in the Arab region will probably have it easy when it comes to acclimatizing. So it'll be very interesting to see how they'll be able to acclimatize to those situations, because remember, it's a big stage, and apart from that, there'll be so much expectations from the fans on them being able to translate the form that they're enjoying currently at the various clubs into the World Cup.
But I know there are also countries that are going for friendlies in Dubai, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, so that you can acclimatize. And I'm sure all the coaches are factoring that in, that the weather is going to be extremely hot. You need to adapt. And my Sadio Mane, who I'm claiming, playing in Germany is going to be so different to playing in Qatar. But as we saw him, how he adjusted during the AFCON, and I'm sure Senegal, I believe they have I think it's a friendly with South Africa, I'm not sure, in the UAE. So preparation is going to be very critical for these players performing well in Qatar.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think if you look at the fact that these guys have come and performed at AFCON, it's different from the European and other players who haven't had to acclimatize to that every 2 years and play in those kind of environments. I think the adjustment will be less radical than those who play exclusively in Europe, that is, European players.
Don't forget, these are world-class players, and they're the best players in the world because they can adapt. But Carol, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Say, God forbid, Sadio Mane gets injured. Who's the next person that has to shine?
Wow, not my gods allowing that. I think Morocco has some key players as well. There's Hakimi, there's also Hakim Ziyech, who unfortunately is not getting that much time either at Chelsea. But I think there are some Moroccan players who can shine. I think Thomas Partey for Ghana, if he gets to play more for Arsenal, because he's been in and out and a little bit inconsistent, but you can expect something from Thomas Partey as well. We have a flood of players from Africa who can actually perform at the World Cup, but it'll depend on what the rest of the squad bring. Like Larry said, the supply you get in Europe is not the same as supply you get for your national team.
Well,
Larry,
also maybe to add to what Kara said. Yeah, sorry. Just to add to what Kara said, now that she's touched on which players probably may be able to come through. For me, I'm still looking out. I know probably Larry and Kara will not agree with me on this one, but I'm still looking out for the experience of Vincent Aboubakar. I think he's one that the Cameroonian team will still count on in terms of the experience, and especially lately, if you look at the combination that he's come up with Toke Ikambi, that is one we should look out for the next World Cup. You never know, the big man may just come out as good as fine wine at the Qatar World Cup and just prove some of those critics that are probably thinking that now he's a Mandela, he's an old man, he can't play, and be able to put up some good performance. So there are really some exciting players that we'll be looking out for at the World Cup.
But Simba, if you're going for the oldies, you might as well throw in Andre Ayew there.
Of course.
We're talking about fine wine. Let's talk about the new grapes. Who are some of the young players that might do well?
Well, I think he was a strange selection for Young Player of the Year, but Pape Sarr was just joined from Metz. They got relegated, but he's got something in him. I watched him during the Africa Cup of Nations. He was a peripheral player, but he impressed. But during the qualifiers, for the AFCON qualifiers, he's played a bit more of a part. So I think at 20, he's a player that is going to impress for the future. Not just for the future, but he's already become a starter for the Ivory Coast.
Yeah, and also for the Ghana team, Inaki Williams. We saw him over the weekend. He scored for the Spanish side, Athletic Bilbao. He's changed, his allegiance. He's now Ghanaian, eligible for selection. So that's another youngster that we might be looking out for, just complementing what Rari has just talked about.
He's a great player. He's a great player, big future. Talking about key players, what about, you're talking about key Africans that are taking part in this World Cup. What about the coaches of the African teams? How important are they?
I think for the first time in a long time, we've seen at least, I think almost all the African teams, I stand to be corrected, who have African coaches. Of course, leading the
They
parties.
all have African coaches, so that's why I'm saying which of those Africans are going to shine, because it's the first time ever that all the African teams have African coaches. It's unbelievable.
Yes. So I think for me, Aliou Cisse, without a doubt, stands out tall. I think he's done very good work with the Senegalese team, and I think it's also shown that if the Senegalese FA could retain and keep faith in him, even in the previous years when things were not really working out well for them, I think it's one that I look forward to be able to put up some good performance. And I think it's also interesting, like you said, Lee, that for the very first time we've got African coaches. Maybe it's a time for them to stake their claim and be able to show that they're able to do the job, because normally around this time of the year you have an influx of European coaches coming to Africa to get most of these coaching jobs. But now with all the African teams going with African coaches, I'm really looking forward to that. But for me, the Senegalese coach comes out top for me.
Carol, would you agree?
I would agree, Aliou Cisse. I mean, he's proven it in Africa. He's proven it by beating Egypt twice in both the final and the qualifier. I also expect Rigobert Song. I think just having the experience as both a player and a coach, probably not amongst the top at Africa Cup of Nations, but you never at World Cup, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Larry, what do you reckon? Which shows that?
Well, it's not because of the hair that I have an implicit bias towards Aliou Cisse, but I love his philosophy around football. He's a guy who you can see that he really thinks about the structure of the teams, the philosophy of the team, and the mentality around his players. And that's the thing that even when he's spoken in public, he has a deliberate way and an attitude towards the game. That is to take nothing away, for example, giving the example of Rigobert Song and so forth, who all have great attributes. But what I like about him is that he drills within the players what he wants to get out of them, and that has resulted in them performing the way he wants them to.
100%. We all know talent alone is not enough. You've got to be mentally strong to be successful. Right, we've got to wrap it up. Final words. Carol, I don't even know if I should ask you who you think is going to be the best player. Sadio Mane. Larry, sticking with your goalkeeper choice?
Goalkeeper choice, but I'm also, siding towards Toko Ekambi from Lyon. He's done very well over the last 3 seasons for Lyon.
Timba, final words.
I'm still sticking with Hamza Matlouti. I think very few people are following with the progress that is being done by the Tunisian team in terms of the preps. Yes, in the recent past, they've not done very well, just like the Moroccan team. So yeah, for me, it may just be a surprise, and we may just see a few replica Tunisian jersey. That may be one of them that may be wearing one of those soon.
Fantastic, guys. What a great episode. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Matimba. Thanks, Larry. To follow the conversation, hashtag DStv Football Buzz. We'll see you on the next episode.
Subscribe to DStv Africa on YouTube for DStv Football Buzz. Featuring influencers from across Africa, we'll be talking everything FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022.